And so, number one SEC fan who would not let the SEC keep him down, found a way to overcome adversity. Danny Kanell, are you ready to count him up?
Let's do it.
As much as I think it's the under is a safe play, like I can't even.
Count them up. Count them up. How many games y'all gonna win this fall?
I can't fathom 8 wins.
How many games y'all gonna win this fall?
I just can't. I don't see it. It's not on there. It's not the schedule I'm looking at. Unless there's another schedule somewhere.
We begin with the Alabama Crimson Tide, who, for the first time in nearly 2 decades, will not have the greatest of all time Nick Saban on the sidelines, but they do have themselves a pretty good ball coach as Kalen DeBoer arrives after, as we've documented many times, winning basically everywhere that he has been a head coach. Now at FanDuel Sportsbook, where you can make every moment more, the over-under win total for Alabama this season is 9.5 wins, over plus 116, under minus 142. Tom, where are we starting with the Tide?
Nick Saban's gone. Alabama will fade into obscurity. Nobody will ever talk about them again. We are going under 9.5, although in all seriousness, it is not a heavy under in which I am betting, especially at that juice. I just think that they're more likely to finish 9-3 than 10-2. It's you get Georgia at home. You're going on the road for Tennessee. You get Missouri, who I think is being a little overblown, but they're still going to be good. You're on the road for LSU. You're on the road for Oklahoma. You also have a non-conference game on the road, not at a neutral site, on the actual road against Wisconsin, who I may not be super high on either, but it's still going to be a much more difficult game than you might think. And then, of course, there's the Iron Bowl, which is always the Iron Bowl. So I look at the schedule, and it's like three losses is very much in play here. I think it's more in play than 2. So I am on the under 9.5.
I'm on the under as well. It is not something that I think is a large edge. In fact, like I ran it through my system. It's not even something I would put money on in the preseason because it's just not like I want to bet futures that are, a larger return than this, but forced to pick every one, which we are. I'm going to go under. I'm a big believer that in the SEC this year, there are certain quarterbacks where even if the team around them is not amazing, they have the ability to jump up and bite you in the ass. And Bama plays all of them, right? Gus Meyer at LSU, Arnold at Oklahoma, Nico, like Cook with those receivers. I don't think Cook's special, but occasionally he does kind of go off, right? Those are some tough ones that I think maybe those teams won't have great seasons, but they certainly could explode for some points. Bama has those questions in the secondary and with their pass rush. That's a little tough. I did play under 6 conference wins at even money when that opened. So I prefer that to an overall under 9.5 because I actually kind of like them in their non-conference slate.
Was that at the kiosk?
That was not at a kiosk. No, that was at a counter.
Okay. Danny, what are you doing?
I am on the under, just like these guys. I had new coach, new scheme, new culture. And a quarterback I'm not a huge believer in Jalen Milroe. Implementing a new system, I'm a little bit concerned about what he looks like, trying to develop as a passer. I don't think that they'll be afraid to run him just like they have last year. But probably the biggest concern for me is culture. Like, what's the one thing we've all heard? How different it is. It's so different. One of the things that made Saban special was the 0 drop-off. They never had that game they were supposed to win that they ended up losing because he had them up and he was constantly on them all the time. That's a rare trait that a coach can get a team that focused. And it's not to knock one versus the other, but I think there could be some bumps along the way when you figure out, like, okay, I'm the player-friendly coach, which I still think Kalen DeBoer, he's a great coach. But these players in a new culture could tend to maybe err on the side of too much freedom, too much fun, too much letdown, that it's too much for me to go over. So I'm on the under as well.
Over.
Oh, nice.
All right. So I think Alabama's offensive line is terrific. And I think that 1-2 combo of Jam Miller and Justice Haynes is such a great way for Kalen DeBoer and the rest of that offensive staff, Nick Sheridan, Jamarcus Shepard, like for them to build everything out from there. We get the we get the information coming out of, Bama 247 about how happy they are with, Orion Williams and how quickly he's made an impact with, Kendrick Law, the way he's coming along, Jeremy Bernard, somebody else we've also had our eye on. I just think that there is better offensive coaching for Jalen Milroe this year than there was last year. And I think that offensively, they're going to be really, really good. I think defensively are some concerns at pass rush. I think defensively, there's some concerns at cornerback. Those are really important positions. But as I'm looking at the schedule with the things that I do know, I think we're looking at anything from 8-4 to 11-1. It really, really stinks that your Tennessee, LSU, Oklahoma are all on the road. That's 3 out of your 4 toss-ups, in my opinion, that are all going to require the Tide to be road warriors. But I've got this as a 10-2 season for the Crimson Tide. So especially at plus 116, I'll take a little bite on some of the post-Saban negativity, jumping on the other side of it. I think this is a 10-2 year for Alabama, and it all starts up front in the trenches.
Certainly don't get rich fading Kalen DeBoer very often.
No.
Yeah.
That would be it's a lot of faith in him and a lot of faith in Jalen Milroe. And so we'll see what happens. Also, by the way, we sometimes sprinkle in futures. I don't hate Jalen Milroe for the Heisman. The guy finished 6th in the Heisman Trophy voting last year, which means that you've got about, I think it's like 40 something Heisman voters who put Jalen Milroe, filled it in on their ballot. So look at, the names that are coming back next year. If you want to go for something a little bit longer than a Carson Beck or a Dylan Gabriel, I don't hate a Jalen Milroe who could win it with a great stats, even at 10-2, if he gets that Kalen DeBoer bump. How many games are going to win this fall?